Have you ever considered how someone seemingly unremarkable, like a janitor, unnoticed by those around him, could quietly build a fortune rivaling the wealthiest elites? Today's story unveils the extraordinary life of Tom Harris, a man overlooked by his family and colleagues, who secretly constructed an empire through patience, strategy, and foresight. But what happens when this hidden wealth intersects with betrayal, ambition, and the unraveling of personal relationships? Get ready for a journey of resilience, surprising revelations, and a lesson in the true value of wealth. Grab your coffee, and let's begin. Tom Harris adjusted his gray uniform and pushed his cleaning cart past the glass-walled offices of Tech Dynamics Incorporated. The wheels squeaked, a reminder he had been meaning to oil them. 15 years of maintaining these halls had taught him every schedule, every corner, and every face, or rather, the backs of heads as most people hurried past without noticing. "Morning, Mr. Harris," a young programmer named Mark greeted as he rushed by, laptop in hand. "Morning, Mark. Don't forget your water bottle in the break room again," Tom replied. The young man snapped his fingers in an "all right" gesture and changed direction. These small exchanges punctuated Tom's days. He knew who stayed late, who arrived early, and whose trash bins overflowed after Friday's takeout tradition. To them, he was just Tom, the maintenance supervisor, reliable, invisible, part of the building's framework. If only they knew about the other machinery running in his home office. His phone buzzed, a price alert. Bitcoin had crossed $47,000. Tom allowed himself a faint smile while mechanically wiping down the counters. His 8,000 BTC had seemed like a wild gamble in 2011 when each coin was worth mere cents. Still wasting time on that digital nonsense? The memory of Laura's dismissive tone echoed in his mind. His wife had been staging their modest home for a showing that day, her realtor's smile firmly in place. "It's called cryptocurrency," he had tried to explain. "Tom, please," she had cut him off with an eye roll. "Focus on your real job. The one that barely covers our expenses?" The sound of the break room door brought Tom back to the present. Sandra from finance walked in, phone glued to her ear. "No, Dad, you don't understand. Tuition fees have increased again," she said, lowering her voice upon noticing Tom. Her face reddened as she grabbed a yogurt and hurried out. Tom's thoughts drifted to his own kids. That morning, his 15-year-old son, Jason, had complained about their ancient car. "Taylor's parents got her a BMW, but we're stuck with this dinosaur," Jason had grumbled at breakfast. His sister, Ava, had chimed in, "At least we have a car, Jason." Jason rolled his eyes and stormed off, leaving his meal untouched. "Don't worry, Dad," Ava had reassured him, but her tired backpack told a different story. The twins were good kids, though their mother's materialistic values had left an impression. Tom dumped another trash bag, thinking about the fortune secured in his encrypted wallet. One move could change everything: private schools, a better car, maybe even a dream home. Yet, something held him back. His phone buzzed again, a text from Daniel Clark, his trusted lawyer. "Documents ready for review. Thursday's meeting confirmed?" Tom typed back a quick yes before heading to the third floor. Moments later, he found Wilson Reed, his longtime colleague, waiting at their usual break room table. "You see those new cars in the exec lot?" Wilson began. "Hard to miss," Tom replied, recalling the Teslas that had appeared after recent promotions. "Lila's been showing houses in that area," Wilson added cautiously. "Luxury listings. I heard her name's on billboards near Cypress Hills." Tom nodded. "Business is going well for her." "Tom," Wilson leaned closer, "I've known you for years. Something's off. Those late office nights?" "Real estate is demanding," Tom replied, keeping his tone even. "She's been showing properties to Philip Randall, the new CEO," Wilson pressed. "Private viewings. My cousin works at the agency." Tom's phone vibrated. A Bitcoin alert, now at $48,000. His hidden fortune swelled while his marriage strained under the weight of distance and secrets. "The twins have been acting different too," Wilson said. "Ava used to volunteer at the shelter. Now it's all study groups with prep school kids. They're growing up." "Things change," Tom replied. "Not everything," Wilson countered. You're still the guy who fixed my mom's plumbing without asking for a dime. You deserve better than. I should get back to work, Tom interrupted, standing abruptly. Thanks for the coffee. Back in the hallway, Tom's phone lit up with another message, this time from Daniel. Final draft ready for your review. Tom exhaled, his thoughts split between the life he had and the life he was building. In his wallet, an old receipt carried the seed phrase to his Bitcoin fortune, written carefully in pencil. He had been building his collection of documentation for months, bank statements, credit card records, and timestamps from location shares on his wife's cloud account that she had forgotten to delete. The meticulous patience that made Tom Harris a Bitcoin millionaire now served another purpose. Every floor he polished, every trash bin he emptied, every polite greeting to employees who barely noticed him, all of it contributed to his unseen effort. The invisible man gathering invisible evidence to protect an invisible fortune. His cart squeaked down another gleaming hallway, his phone buzzing with a new price alert. Beneath the surface, the pieces of his carefully constructed life were shifting. The annual Tech Dynamics Christmas party transformed the sterile office into a glittering showcase of corporate hierarchy. Tom quietly supervised the maintenance crew's decorations from a discreet corner, observing how the executives gravitated toward the premium bar while junior staff mingled near the punch bowl. The new CEO knows how to make an entrance, Wilson Reed muttered, appearing at Tom's side with 2 cups of punch. Philip Randall had just arrived, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit. Tom instantly recognized as designer. Moving through the crowd with effortless charm, Randall left behind murmurs of admiration and eager smiles. Laura's here, Wilson added cautiously. Tom had noticed her the moment she walked in, wearing a striking red dress that definitely hadn't come from their usual budget-conscious stores. She worked the room with the finesse of a seasoned realtor, her orbit gradually narrowing toward Randall. Mom looks incredible, Jason's voice startled Tom. His son had insisted on coming, claiming he was mature enough for a corporate event. Jason stood in a sharp outfit Tom didn't recall buying, his gaze fixed on the glittering executives. Why didn't you ever try for promotion, Dad? We could be over there instead of here. Before Tom could respond, Avu appeared. I found the dessert table, she announced cheerfully. They have those chocolate truffles you like, Dad. Thanks, sweetheart. Tom watched Jason wander off, drawn toward a group of executives' children. You don't have to stay with me, Ava. I like it here, she replied with a warm smile. But her eyes followed her brother. She added, Jason's not wrong, though. You're smart enough to do more than this. If only she knew. His phone buzzed. In his pocket, another crypto alert. He had set up sophisticated systems to monitor his digital fortune, tracking price movements across multiple exchanges. The same precision that kept Tech Dynamics running smoothly had made him a silent crypto millionaire. Across the room, Philip Randall had finally reached Laura. Tom observed their interaction with the same attention to detail he'd once applied to Bitcoin's market patterns. The subtle lean of Randall's posture, the slightly louder pitch of Laura's laugh, the deliberate yet casual brush of hands as they reached for drinks. I've got something you'll want to see, Wilson's voice interrupted his thoughts. Property viewings. Thursday, Tom replied quietly. As the party followed its predictable course, Ava eventually went to pull Jason out of an awkward conversation with an executive's son. Laura, meanwhile, stayed near Randall, their professional conversation about real estate markets convincing no one paying attention. Later that week, Wilson's information told a clear story. There were repeated private viewings of luxury homes, always after office hours, with the same 2 cars appearing in visitor lots. Lunches stretched into dinners. The Malibu development, Wilson said, spreading printed photos across his kitchen table. She's there at least 3 times a week. Tom examined the pictures. His wife's car parked beside Randall's, timestamps painting a damning picture. And the twin study groups? Different locations every time, Wilson confirmed. But never were they claimed to be. Tom's phone lit up again, a message from Daniel Clark. Bitcoin moving again. Need to finalize asset protection strategy. You've got someone helping you? Wilson asked, noticing Tom's expression. A lawyer, Tom replied, gathering the photos. Specializes in digital assets. Digital assets? Wilson frowned. Tom, what aren't you telling me? But Tom was already heading to the door. Thanks, Wilson. I've got calls to make. The following weeks fell into a pattern. Laura's late nights grew longer, and the twins' mysterious study groups increased. All the while, Tom quietly planned his next move. Tom Harris kept up his usual routine at Tech Dynamics, blending into the background as always, while his lawyer methodically built a case. Your wife's phone pinged at the Cypress Hills property again, Daniel reported during one of their secure calls. 3 hours this time. And the Bitcoin wallet? Locked through smart contracts, Daniel reassured him. She'd need to prove prior knowledge of cryptocurrency from before 2011 to have any claim. Tom ended the call and glanced around his modest home office. The mining rigs were long gone, but their distinct hum still echoed in his memory. Back then, Laura had complained endlessly about the rising electricity bills, the heat, and what she called a pointless obsession. I don't get you, she'd said countless times. Why can't you focus on real opportunities? Real opportunities like Philip Randall. It seemed Tom's tracking systems now monitored far more than crypto prices. Every late-night meeting, every unexplained expense, every vague calendar entry contributed to the growing dossier Daniel was assembling. The twins were changing too. Jason's social media posts now showcased designer outfits and gadgets Tom knew he hadn't purchased. Ava's enthusiasm for college talks had waned, replaced by quiet detachment and slipping grades. They're just busy with school, Laura dismissed his concerns over one of their rare family dinners. Advanced placement courses are demanding. Do AP courses require designer handbags? Tom's tone was calm, but his words cut through the air. Laura's eyes narrowed. Some of us care about appearances, Tom. About giving our kids opportunities to succeed. Like private tours of Cypress Hills estates? The silence that followed was thick with unspoken tension. Jason was the first to push back from the table, muttering an excuse about homework. Ava lingered, her troubled gaze flitting between her parents before she quietly excused herself. Laura finally broke the silence. I don't know what you think you're implying, but remember your place, she said coldly. You clean offices, Tom. I sell million-dollar properties to clients like Philip Randall. Her heels clicked sharply as she stormed off, leaving Tom at the table. His phone buzzed. Bitcoin had crossed $48,000. Later, in his study, Tom stared at the encrypted drives housing the keys to his fortune. It was enough to buy their house hundreds of times over. Yet he continued to play the role of the humble maintenance supervisor. Years of holding on to Bitcoin through market crashes had taught him patience, a skill that would serve him well in the storm to come. Rain lashed against the windows of Tech Dynamics as Tom made an unusual move. He called in sick for the first time in 15 years. Migraine, he told his supervisor, though the lie left a bitter taste. Wilson's urgent text demanded immediate attention. Her car's loaded. Storage unit on 12th Street. Full of boxes. The drive home felt surreal. Bitcoin price alerts buzzed regularly, the market's volatility matching the chaos of his personal life. Each alert was a reminder of the empire he'd built in secret, an empire dismissed as a fad by so many. He pulled into the driveway at 2:47 p.m., hours earlier than usual. Laura's car was parked outside, along with a moving van he didn't recognize. The sight confirmed everything Wilson and Daniel's investigations had pointed to. Inside, the sound of slamming drawers echoed. Tom stepped into the entryway and found Laura, his wife of 18 years, shoving designer clothes into luggage he didn't even recognize. You're home early, she said, not even looking up. Her voice carried irritation rather than surprise. Storage unit on 12th Street, Tom said quietly, his tone steady. How long have you been planning this? Now she paused, her manicured hands gripping a silk blouse. You had me followed? You weren't exactly subtle, Tom replied, leaning against the doorframe. Philip Randall's Cypress Hills mansion. The private viewings that turned into private everything else. His name is Michael. Laura snapped, her laugh harsh. God, you can't even get that right. Philip Michael Randall. Not that it matters. You're just the stupid janitor who couldn't even buy me a decent anniversary gift last year. Movement in the hallway caught Tom's attention. Jason stood there, clutching a designer backpack to his chest like armor. Behind him, Ava pressed against the wall, her face etched with misery. The twins! Tom's voice stayed calm, though his world tilted. They're coming with me, Laura said, zipping her suitcase with angry finality. To a real home, with a man who understands ambition, who can give them the life they deserve. Dad! Ava's voice wavered. Don't! Jason cut her off. We're moving to his Cypress Hills mansion. Why would we stay in this dump with a loser like you? The words hit harder than any market crash Tom had endured. He looked at his children, Jason, chin raised in defiance, dressed in clothes worth more than his monthly paycheck. Ava, unable to meet his gaze, clutching her own packed bag. I'm done pretending, Laura continued, her voice rising. Done living this small, pathetic life while you waste your time on your computer with imaginary internet money. Done watching our kids miss out on opportunities because their father lacks ambition. Those opportunities, Tom said softly, like the ones Philip offers at private viewings? Michael, Laura corrected automatically, then laughed bitterly. You know what? Let's be honest for once. Yes, like those opportunities. He's everything you're not. Successful, powerful, connected. He can get the kids into Cypress Hills Academy, introduce them to the right people, give them a future beyond. She gestured dismissively at their modest home. Ava. Tom turned to his quieter daughter. Is this what you want? Ava's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move from Jason's side. Mom says it's better for everyone this way. It is better, Jason added sharply. God, do you know how embarrassing it is to have a janitor for a dad? Ryan's dad owns 3 companies. Chloe's mom is a doctor. And we're stuck. Tom watched silently as they carried their bags to the waiting van. His phone buzzed again, a price alert. The same patience that had kept him holding through Bitcoin's early volatility now anchored him, allowing him to maintain the facade of the defeated husband and inadequate father. The lawyers will contact you, Laura said, pausing in the doorway, her real estate agent smile twisting into something cruel. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You can't afford a fight anyway. The van's engine roared to life. Through the rain-streaked window, Tom watched as his family loaded the last of their belongings. Ava hesitated at the van's door, glancing back at the house at him one final time. But Jason grabbed her hand and pulled her inside with an impatient tug. I hope you understand, Laura said, pausing before she left. This was never going to work long term. Someone like you. You'll never be more than what you are. Tom stood motionless, shoulders slumped, eyes downcast, the picture of defeat. The same invisible man he had played for years at Tech Dynamics. He watched the van disappear into the rain, taking his family toward their promised life of luxury. Only when the taillights vanished into the storm did he allow himself to move. In his home office, the glow of crypto trading charts lit up the room. Bitcoin's price had stabilized after a volatile day. Tom Harris picked up his phone and dialed the number he'd saved for this moment. Daniel Clark's office, a professional voice answered. It's Tom Harris, he said, looking out the window at his now empty driveway. It's time. They've left. Daniel's tone shifted to sharp attentiveness. Yes, Tom replied. Claims about private school opportunities, moving in with Randall, mocking my job. Everything as expected. Papers rustled in the background. Every move documented, just like we planned. Your Bitcoin holdings? Secured, Tom confirmed, thinking of the encrypted drives, the scattered keys, and the meticulous records proving his investments predated the marriage. She has no idea. Good. Keep it that way, Daniel advised. Stick to your routine. Let them believe they've won. We'll act when the time is right. Tom ended the call and sat quietly in the empty house. His maintenance supervisor's uniform hung neatly on the hook, ready for another day at Tech Dynamics. Tomorrow, he'd return to his rounds, invisible as always, while Daniel's team worked behind the scenes. His phone buzzed, this time not a price alert, but a text from Wilson. You okay? Tom glanced around his modest home, the digital wealth hidden behind layers of encryption, a silent reminder of his patience and planning. Yes, he typed back. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. Tom sat across from Daniel Clark in the lawyer's sleek, minimalist office, now dressed in simple business casual attire. Multiple screens displayed cryptocurrency, tracking software, each monitoring a different layer of his digital assets. Our first priority is protecting your Bitcoin, Daniel began, adjusting his glasses. Tracy, walk us through the plan. Tracy Moore, a forensic accountant, leaned forward, her laptop screen lighting up with detailed spreadsheets and transaction logs. Your Bitcoin purchases and mining activity date back several years before your marriage, she explained, rotating her screen to face Tom. We've documented every transaction since 2011. What's key is that Laura dismissed and refused to engage in your crypto ventures. I've got emails, Tom said, sliding his phone across the table. From 2011 to 2016, where she explicitly called it my internet money scheme and wanted no involvement. Tracy scanned the messages, her expression brightening. These are excellent. They clearly separate the assets. But we need to move quickly, Daniel interjected. Divorce filings often freeze accounts. He pulled up a document on his tablet. We've prepared a series of smart contracts to secure your holdings through complex digital transactions. Fully legal, but nearly impossible to trace without deep technical knowledge of cryptocurrency. Will her lawyer understand any of this? Tom asked, studying the diagrams. Tracy allowed herself a small smile. Most divorce attorneys can barely handle basic crypto concepts. They'll demand half of everything, but won't know what everything actually is. For hours, they worked systematically, securing every Bitcoin through intricate transactions designed to shield Tom's fortune from legal claims. Your maintenance job turned out to be the perfect cover, Tracy remarked as she reviewed the final protocols. No one questions a janitor's modest lifestyle. No one suspects someone they see as unimportant. Laura didn't, Tom said quietly, recalling her parting words. She called me a stupid janitor. Her underestimation works to our advantage, Daniel replied, shutting his laptop. Stick to your routine. Keep up appearances. Let them think they know exactly who you are. Tom's phone buzzed again, a text from Wilson. Laura's showing off her new life on social media. You should see this. The attached images showed Laura and the twins at luxury locations, tagged with captions like #blessed and #livingmybestlife. Jason appeared front and center, flaunting designer clothes in front of Philip Randall's Cypress Hills mansion. Ava was in fewer photos, her smile subdued and forced. Speaking of social media, Tracy said, glancing at the photos, we should discuss digital surveillance. Everything they post becomes evidence, patterns, lifestyle changes, timestamps. I've been documenting everything, Tom confirmed. Wilson's been tracking their movements, too. Keep it up, Daniel advised. But remember, we're in this for the long game. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they've won. The more they flaunt, the stronger our case becomes. Tom nodded, reflecting on the patience that had helped him build his Bitcoin fortune. The same skills, observation, attention to detail, and strategic timing that had made him invisible at Tech Dynamics would now safeguard everything he'd built. One more thing, Tracy added, pulling up another document. We need to review your current cryptocurrency storage setup. Any security weaknesses could be exploited. They spent the next hour fortifying Tom's digital defenses, adding layers of encryption that made any attempted breach virtually impossible. By the end, his fortune was locked away, accessible only to him. Perfect timing, Daniel said, checking his phone. My sources say Laura has hired Stephen Fitzpatrick. He's aggressive but predictable, loves to paint the working spouse as an incompetent provider. Let him, Tom replied, gathering his things. I've been invisible my whole career. Why stop now? As he left the office, his phone buzzed with another social media notification. Philip Randall had posted photos from a charity gala, Laura gleaming on his arm. The twins stood awkwardly in expensive dresses. The caption read, "Family is everything." Tom saved the post to his growing file of evidence. His maintenance uniform waited in the car, ready for the next shift. The same patience that had turned pennies into millions would now serve a different purpose. The coffee shop was quiet when Benita Craig arrived, her designer handbag a subtle reminder of her own days as Philip Randall's wife. She spotted Tom instantly, The unassuming man sitting in the corner with a simple black coffee. You're exactly as Wilson described, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. The quiet observer. Tom gestured to the second cup on the table. Wilson said you like cream. Benita's manicured fingers wrapped around the cup. Former habits die hard. Like Philip's patterns. When I saw the social media posts, I knew I had to reach out. You mentioned there were others? Tom asked. 3 that I know of. Benita pulled out her phone, scrolling through saved articles. Sarah Winters, 2015. Karolinischen, 2017. Maria Rodriguez, 2019. The pattern is always the same. He finds successful women with stable families, preferably with children women. Looking for something more. Tom studied the articles. Each story followed a familiar trajectory. A wealthy so swoops in, promises a better life, dismantles the family, and leaves behind wreckage. The children are always the key, Benita continued, her tone bitter. He loves playing the generous stepfather, private schools, lavish gifts, social connections. By the time the mothers realize the damage, the kids are too enchanted by the lifestyle to leave. My twins, Tom said quietly. Jason and Ava. Benita nodded. I've seen the posts. Jason's already drawn in designer clothes, luxury cars, private school parties. Ava, she reminds me of my Alexandra. The quiet one who sees everything but says nothing. Tom's phone buzzed. A notification from Ava's school email. Her grades for the semester had been posted. The straight A's were gone, replaced by B's and C's. Alexandra was at the top of her class too, Benita said, noticing Tom's expression. Now she's a lifestyle influencer addicted to $1,000 handbags. She hasn't spoken to me in 3 years. Tom's jaw tightened. I won't let that happen to my kids. That's why I'm here. Benita leaned forward. I have documentation, emails, bank records, witness statements from the other families. Philip isn't as careful as he thinks. His pattern leaves traces. They spent the next hour going over Benita's evidence. Each case followed the same blueprint. Lavish gifts, promises of private school, gradual isolation from the original family. Miss Craig, a new voice interrupted. Lester Andrews, Ava's former math teacher, approached their table. I thought that was you. I recognize you from the charity gala photos. Tom stood. What brings you here? Ava's scholarship applications, Lester said, pulling out a folder. She was on track for a full ride to several top universities. Her algorithms project was groundbreaking. But now, Benita guessed, she's missed the last 3 academic team meetings? Lester nodded. And the regional math competition. Concern filled his voice. She told me she's focusing on her personal brand instead. This isn't the Ava I know. Tom accepted the folder, scanning the steady decline in his daughter's academic performance. Has she said anything else? Just that Randall is introducing her to better opportunities. Social media influencing, fashion blogging, Lester said, shaking his head. She had a real gift for computational mathematics. Now she's posting makeup tutorials. Classic Philip, Benita muttered. Alexandra was a promising violinist. Now she reviews luxury spa treatments. Tom's phone buzzed. Again, a new social media alert. Jason had posted photos from Cypress Hills Academy, posing with new friends in matching designer outfits. The caption read, so blessed to finally have the life I deserve. Hashtag blessed, hashtag new money, hashtag rich kid soft Cypress Hills. Ava appeared in the background of one photo. Her school uniform pristine, but her expression distant. She held a calculus textbook like an accessory rather than a tool. The isolation comes next, Benita warned. He'll suggest they limit contact with their old friends, their old teachers, anyone tied to their previous life. It's already happening, Lester confirmed. Ava's best friend Maria tried visiting last week, but was turned away at the gate. Something about upgrading their social circle. Tom saved the photos, adding them to his growing case file. His lawyer's words echoed in his mind. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they've won. I should get back to work, Tom said, standing. The hallways at Tech Dynamics won't clean themselves. The janitor act, Benita mused. You wear it well. Almost had me fool. That's the point, Tom replied, gathering the documentation. Thank you both. This helps more than you know. As Tom walked to his car, his phone buzzed with another text, this time from Wilson. Randall's showing off his crypto investments to the board, bragging about some new altcoin venture. Should I be worried? Tom allowed himself a small smile, thinking of his secured Bitcoin fortune. Let them play with altcoins. He had learned long ago that patience and invisibility were worth far more than flashy displays. His maintenance uniform waited in the car, the same navy blue coveralls he'd worn for 15 years. The same invisible man, gathering invisible evidence, protected by an invisible fortune. The initial divorce hearing transformed the courthouse into a battleground of conflicting narratives. Stephen Fitzpatrick, Laura's lawyer, arrived in an Italian suit likely worth more than Tom's annual maintenance salary. Daniel Clark, in a modest charcoal suit and wire-rimmed glasses, presented the carefully cultivated image of understated professionalism. Your Honor, Fitzpatrick began, his voice commanding the courtroom. This is a straightforward case of a mother seeking better opportunities for her children. My client, Mrs. Randall, has found herself trapped in a marriage with a man who lacks any ambition beyond pushing a cleaning cart. Tom Harris sat quietly, wearing a modest suit from a department store, emphasizing his working-class status. Across the aisle, Laura sparkled in designer labels, with Philip Randall conspicuously seated behind her in the gallery. The facts are clear, Fitzpatrick continued, spreading documents across the judge's bench. Mr. Harris has been content with minimal career advancement. No promotions, no further education, no effort to provide his family with the lifestyle they deserve. Meanwhile, Mrs. Randall has built a thriving real estate career, consistently working to elevate their standard of living. The judge, an older woman named Patricia Chun, studied the documents with a calm, unreadable expression. And the children? Thriving, Your Honor, Fitzpatrick declared, gesturing to printed social media posts. Since moving in with Mr. Randall, they've enrolled in one of the state's top private schools. They're finally accessing the opportunities they deserve. Opportunities? Daniel Clark's voice was steady, but carried through the room. Let's discuss those opportunities, shall we? He approached the bench with his own set of documents. School records, Your Honor. Ava Harris was on track for a full academic scholarship. Class president, math team captain, perfect GPA. Since transferring to Cypress Hills Academy, her grades have dropped significantly. She's missed crucial academic competitions and college preparation events. She's exploring different interests, Fitzpatrick interrupted. The influencer industry. The influencer industry won't pay for college, Daniel countered smoothly. But let's talk about who has been paying for everything else. Bank records appeared on the courtroom's evidence screen. Years of mortgage payments, utility bills, grocery receipts. All from Mr. Harris's accounts, Daniel explained. Credit card statements show Mrs. Randall's escalating luxury purchases, all covered by Mr. Harris's steady payments. While Mrs. Randall claims my client has provided inadequately, these records show he has financially supported his family without fail. His so-called minimal job has kept them stable, housed, and secure. Meanwhile, Mrs. Randall's real estate income has been spent primarily on personal luxuries. Objection, Fitzpatrick stood abruptly. My client's career success should not be used against her. Not her success, Daniel corrected. Her choices, which brings us to the children's current situation. More documents were presented. Social media posts displaying expensive shopping sprees, late-night parties, and missed school days. Ava's declining grades stood in stark contrast to her previous academic achievements. Jason's public persona had become entirely focused on showcasing a luxury lifestyle. Mr. Harris has never missed a parent-teacher conference, Daniel said, holding up a file thick with attendance records. He has never missed a school event, maintained steady employment, provided consistent financial support, and prioritized his children's education over material displays. The judge carefully reviewed the records. Mrs. Randall, would you care to explain these credit card statements? Laura shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. I was trying to maintain appearances for my real estate career. Image is everything in luxury properties. Image, Judge Chun repeated neutrally. Mr. Fitzpatrick, you've characterized Mr. Harris's job as inadequate. Yet these records show consistent provision, active parental involvement, and stable housing. Meanwhile, your client's recent choices suggest concerning priorities. Your Honor, Fitzpatrick began to recover. Mr. Randall's resources provide opportunities. Mr. Randall is not a party to this divorce, Judge Chun interrupted firmly. Nor should children's access to education depend on their mother's romantic choices. Tom maintained his composed silence, watching Laura's previously confident demeanor falter. Behind her, Philip Randall glanced at his phone repeatedly, frowning at whatever message had appeared. Furthermore, Daniel added, we have evidence suggesting this entire situation follows a troubling pattern. The courtroom door opened, and Benita Craig entered, carrying a folder thick with documentation. Fitzpatrick's eyes widened slightly, betraying his recognition of the implications of her presence. Your Honor, he interjected quickly, any testimony regarding Mr. Randall's previous relationships is irrelevant to this case. I disagree, Judge Chun replied. If there is evidence of a pattern affecting the children's welfare, I want to hear it. As Benita took the stand, Tom met Ava's gaze from the gallery. She sat between Jason and Philip, her school uniform replaced by expensive casual wear, her expression troubled. For a moment, Ava's mask slipped, and Tom saw his studious daughter beneath the curated facade. Trust the process, Daniel whispered, noticing Tom's gaze. Everything is going as planned. Tom gave a slight nod, maintaining his role as the unassuming maintenance supervisor, watching his family drift further away. The same patience that had built his hidden fortune would now protect something far more valuable, his children's future. Philip Randall's Cypress Hills mansion buzzed with activity as crypto trading screens illuminated his sprawling office. Multiple monitors displayed plummeting charts, red candles cascading like falling dominoes. His tech company's altcoin investments were evaporating by the millions. This can't be happening, he muttered, frantically typing commands into his trading terminal. Each trade only deepened the losses. Everything was perfect. The indicators, the market. Laura entered with a coffee tray, her designer outfit clashing with the domestic gesture. The kids are asking about the weekend plans. The Hamptons trip? Philip barely looked up. Not now. These positions are killing me. But you promised Jason he could meet those influencers, she pressed. I said not now. His fist slammed onto the desk, sending a coffee cup crashing to the floor. In the doorway, unnoticed, Ava flinched at the outburst. She had begun to see this side of Philip more often as the crypto markets turned against him, the polished CEO mask slipping to reveal something darker. Jason appeared beside her, clutching his phone. My followers keep asking about the yacht party. What should I tell them? Tell them to go to hell? Philip snapped, his face reddening as another trade liquidated. Your mother said this would be simple. A clean break from her worthless ex. Now I'm bleeding millions while he's... Philip froze, his mind catching on something. Slowly, he turned toward Laura, his voice dropping dangerously low. You said he was worth nothing. A janitor, barely scraping by. He is, Laura protested, backing away slightly. Tom's just a maintenance supervisor. He's never been anything else. Then why are my algorithms working? Philip growled, gesturing at the screens. I built these trading models on perfect market intelligence. The only wild card is... His eyes narrowed. What exactly did your ex-husband do with computers? Ava's mind raced to memories of her father's home office. The constant hum of equipment he had said was for work projects, his animated explanations of blockchain technology, always interrupted by Laura's dismissive comments. He used to mine some internet money thing, Laura said hesitantly. Bitcoin, I think, but it was years ago. He wasted hundreds of dollars on it. I told him to stop. Bitcoin. Philip's laugh was humorless. When was this? 2010? Earlier? I don't know, Laura stammered. I never paid attention to his stupid schemes. Philip turned back to his screens, pulling up Bitcoin's price history. His fingers flew across the keyboard, running calculations for potential holdings from early mining operations. The color drained from his face. You idiot, he whispered. Do you have any idea what early Bitcoin mining could be worth now? What are you talking about? Laura demanded. He's a janitor. He barely makes minimum wage. Mom, Ava's voice was quiet. Remember Dad's old equipment? The stuff that was always running in his office. Mining rigs, Philip said flatly. Your ex-husband wasn't just tinkering with computers. He was mining Bitcoin when it was worth pennies. That's impossible. Laura laughed, but there was uncertainty in her voice. Tom? My Tom? He pushes a cleaning cart for a living. While my tech company loses millions on altcoins, Philip's voice rose. Your so-called worthless ex-husband could be sitting on a fortune that makes this mansion look like a storage shed. The twins exchanged uneasy glances. Jason's perfectly manicured hand lowered his phone, for once not recording the moment for social media. Ava's mind raced through years of memories. Her father's patient explanations of cryptocurrency, his calm responses to her mother's mockery of internet money, his insistence on a modest lifestyle despite knowing how to navigate the volatile crypto markets. All those times he tried to teach us about Bitcoin, Ava said softly. We thought he was a loser? Philip interrupted mockingly. Like mother, like daughters. Tell me, Laura, did you ever once bother to look at what your husband was building? Or were you too busy chasing the obvious displays of wealth? Laura's designer heels crunched against the broken coffee cup as she stepped back, her expression shifting between fear and disbelief. I don't believe it. I can't believe it. He's lying. He has to be lying. Dad never lies, Ava found herself saying. He lets people see what they want to see. Another screen flashed red, another losing trade. Philip's altcoin portfolio was in freefall, while Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency his company had dismissed as obsolete, remained relatively stable. Get out, he said quietly, his tone sharp and final. Philip, please, Laura began, but he cut her off. Get out. He swept his arm across the desk, sending papers and debris flying. Take your worthless real estate license and your social climbing daughters and leave. I'm not bankrupting myself over some janitor's cast-offs. Jenny grabbed her sister's arm, pulling her from the room as their mother's protests dissolved into sobs. Behind them, Philip's trading screens continued their relentless display of red candles and liquidated positions. In the hallway, Jason finally found his voice. Ava, what just happened? I think, Ava said slowly, we all fell for the wrong kind of wealth. The courthouse buzzed with tension as Tom entered, still wearing his modest department store suit. The crypto crash had dominated headlines, with several major tech companies facing catastrophic losses on speculative altcoin investments. But Bitcoin, the original cryptocurrency, had endured the storm. Daniel Clark sat at the defense table, his modest demeanor masking the power of the evidence they were about to present. Tracy Moore, their forensic accountant, had arranged a digital presentation that would shift the entire narrative. Your Honor, Daniel began as Judge Chun took her seat. Before we proceed with custody deliberations, my client would like to address the court's concerns regarding his financial capacity to support his children. Stephen Fitzpatrick, looking far less confident than in previous hearings, rose to object. Your Honor, we've already established Mr. Harris's limited means as a maintenance supervisor. Actually, Daniel interrupted smoothly, what we've established is my client's admirable work ethic and consistent provision for his family. Now we'll demonstrate how he achieved that. Tracy began her presentation, displaying a timeline of blockchain transactions dating back to 2010, early Bitcoin mining operations, careful accumulation during market crashes, and strategic holding during bull runs. As these records indicate, Tracy explained, Mr. Harris was an early adopter of cryptocurrency technology. His initial investment of a few $100s in mining equipment has grown to a current valuation of over $400 million in Bitcoin holdings. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Laura, seated next to her attorney, stared at Tom in stunned horror. In the gallery, Jason's meticulously curated social media persona cracked as he clutched his phone with trembling hands. Furthermore, Daniel continued, these assets were acquired before the marriage, as evidenced by Mrs. Randall's documented rejection of any involvement. He added, producing emails, text messages, and witness statements that demonstrated Laura's consistent dismissal of Tom's crypto activities. Your Honor, Fitzpatrick attempted to recover. If these assets exist, they should be considered marital property. I have hundreds of communications from Mrs. Randall explicitly stating she wanted no involvement in what she called worthless internet money schemes, Daniel countered. She repeatedly discouraged Mr. Harris's involvement in cryptocurrency, mocked his interest in blockchain technology, and insisted he was wasting money. By her own documented choice, she forfeited any claim to these assets. Next, Benita Craig took the stand, her testimony carrying additional weight in light of Tom's revealed fortune. This was never about money for Tom, she told the court. I've watched Philip Randall destroy 3 other families with promises of wealth and status. But Tom chose to stay invisible, not just to protect his assets, but to safeguard his children's values. 3 other women came forward, each recounting similar stories of Philip's manipulative patterns. The court listened as they detailed how he targeted families, exploited children's materialistic tendencies, and abandoned them once he had dismantled their foundations. Tom remained calm, his quiet patience finally paying off as the weight of truth began to tip the scales in his favor. Ava sat in the gallery, tears streaming down her face as the truth of her father's choices became clear. Every denied request for designer clothes, every insistence on public school, every patient explanation about financial responsibility. It had never been about lacking money, but about building character. Jason remained frozen, his meticulously curated world of luxury brands and social media influence collapsing as he realized he had traded true wealth for a shallow imitation. Judge Chun studied the evidence before her, her expression thoughtful. Mr. Harris, would you care to explain why you maintained this facade? Tom stood, his modest suit and unassuming demeanor unchanged by the revelations. Your Honor, I learned early in my Bitcoin investment that real value isn't about appearance or extravagance. I wanted my children to understand that character and integrity outweigh material wealth. Unfortunately, I had to lose them to Philip Randall's empty promises for them to learn that lesson. A lesson at their expense? Fitzpatrick attempted one last attack. No, Tom replied calmly. A lesson about seeing beyond the surface. People see a maintenance supervisor and think they know everything about him. I let them believe what they wanted to see while building something more valuable than a Cypress Hills mansion or a social media following. Judge Chun nodded slowly, comprehension dawning in her eyes. Mrs. Randall, do you have anything to add? Laura sat speechless, her designer outfit suddenly feeling like a hollow display. Every dismissive comment about Tom's job, every mocking remark about his crypto interests, every materialistic value she had encouraged in their children, all of it reflected back at her now. I didn't know, she whispered. That was rather the point, Judge Chun remarked dryly. The transition came gradually. Ava was the first to reach out, arriving at Tom's modest house one evening with her old calculus textbook clutched like a peace offering. I withdrew from the influencer sponsorship, she said quietly when he opened the door. And I've been studying for the makeup exams. It's not too late for that, is it? Tom stepped aside, letting her into the unchanged living room. She had once been ashamed of. It's never too late to choose substance over show. That evening, they reviewed mathematical concepts together, returning to their old dynamic of patient teaching and eager learning. Ava's phone stayed untouched, her designer clothes forgotten, as she rediscovered her love for problem solving. Jason took longer to come around. His social media following was deeply tied to his luxury lifestyle, making the shift more challenging. But seeing Ava's quiet return to authenticity stirred something in him. Dad, he said hesitantly over the phone one evening, how did you do it? Stay true to yourself when everyone thought you were. Come over, Tom said simply. Let's talk about real value. Jason arrived still wearing expensive clothes, but his usually flawless appearance showed traces of tears. I've been so awful, so shallow. You've been misled, Tom said gently. By your mother, by Philip, by a world obsessed with appearances. But you're stronger than that. In the weeks that followed, both children began spending more time at their father's house. Ava threw herself into academics, while Jason, to Tom's surprise, developed an interest in business fundamentals. I want to understand it, he explained, engrossed in basic investment concepts. Not just the illusion of success, but how to actually build something real. Tom used their interest wisely, setting up modest college funds that required them to match his contributions through part-time work. He upgraded his home, not to a mansion, but to a comfortable house with enough space for both children to pursue their passions. Laura's attempts to sustain her luxury lifestyle crumbled as Philip, facing multiple lawsuits over failed crypto investments, withdrew his support. Her real estate income was insufficient to sustain her materialistic habits. The irony, she muttered one day, watching her children step out of Tom's new home, is that you were the wealthy one all along. Money isn't wealth, Tom replied simply. Our kids finally understand that. Tom continued his work at Tech Dynamics, now as head of maintenance, using his role to mentor his team about investment opportunities and long-term financial strategies. The Bitcoin millionaire janitor became a quiet legend in crypto circles. But to Ava and Jason, he became something far more valuable, a father who had taught them the true meaning of wealth. Why didn't you tell us? Jason asked one evening, looking around their comfortable but modest new living room. Money reveals people's true colors, Tom explained. I wanted you to develop character before wealth. Your mother and Philip showed you what happens when people value money over love. The twins enrolled in financial literacy courses at the community college. Ava resumed her path toward a full scholarship, her mathematical gifts now complemented by a real-world understanding of financial systems. Jason surprised everyone by starting a small business, using his social media skills to market authentically grounded products and services. Laura occasionally drove past their new home, wondering how she had overlooked the quiet strength in the man she had dismissed as just a janitor. But Tom was too busy helping his children plan their futures. Futures built on understanding the difference between genuine wealth and its flashy imitation. You know, Ava said one evening, working on a blockchain coding project while Jason refined his business plan, we were looking for success in all the wrong places. Tom smiled, watching his children build their own versions of wealth based on substance rather than appearance. The Bitcoin fortune that had caused such upheaval remained largely untouched. Its real value lay not in its monetary worth, but in the lessons it had taught about patience, authenticity, and the true meaning of success. 5 years later, the Tech Dynamics annual charity gala had transformed into a prestigious event. Tom Harris stood near the entrance, no longer in his maintenance uniform, but in a tailored suit that was understated yet reflected quiet confidence. Now the head of the company's pioneering blockchain division, he had finally allowed his expertise to become public, though his philosophy on wealth remained unchanged. Dad, Ava's voice called across the room as she navigated through the crowd. At 21, she had become a poised young woman, her MIT credentials already making waves in the cryptocurrency development world. She had interned with top blockchain companies before choosing to join her father's division, bringing fresh ideas to their projects. Your presentation on quantum-resistant blockchain architecture impressed the board, Tom said as she hugged him. Though I noticed you kept the technical jargon to a minimum. Ava adjusted her simple yet elegant business attire with a smile. I learned from the best. Speaking of which, have you seen Jason? He's supposed to be here with his mentorship group. As if on cue, Jason appeared, leading a group of teenage boys in professional attire. After his experience with social media's hollow promises, he had turned his influencer skills into a meaningful venture. His small business had evolved into a successful nonprofit that taught financial literacy and authentic leadership to young men from disadvantaged backgrounds. Gentlemen, Jason addressed his group. Remember what we discussed about networking? It's not about impressing people with appearances. It's about building real connections. He caught his father's approving nod, reflecting on how far he had come from his days of chasing luxury brands. Wilson Reed, now Tech Dynamics head of facilities management, a position Tom had recommended him for, approached with his daughter Maria. Tom, the scholarship program you funded is changing lives. Maria's entire department at Stanford is considering similar initiatives. The scholarship, one of Tom's first public projects after his fortune became known, provided opportunities for maintenance and service workers to advance their careers. It was his way of honoring the dignity of the work that had shaped his values. Speaking of changes, Wilson lowered his voice. Heard anything about Philip Randall lately? Tom hadn't needed to follow his ex-wife's former partner's downfall. It had played out very publicly. After a string of lawsuits from failed crypto ventures and mismanaged investments, Philip's empire had crumbled. Laura, once inseparable from his promises of wealth, had quietly retreated from the spotlight. Tom glanced at his children, now thriving in their authentic pursuits. Ava was discussing blockchain innovations with a group of professionals, while Jason guided his mints with confidence and purpose. I don't need to follow him, Tom said simply. I've already won in every way that matters. After the crypto crash revealed Philip Randall's altcoin schemes, investigations uncovered a pattern of fraudulent investments and market manipulation. His tech company collapsed, dragging several smaller cryptocurrencies down with it. Last Tom heard, Philip was facing federal charges and living in a modest apartment, his Cypress Hills mansion long since seized by authorities. Benita Craig's support group for families affected by his schemes is doing great work, Ava commented. She had occasionally volunteered with their cryptocurrency education programs, teaching people how to protect themselves from digital asset fraud. The other women who had testified about Philip's predatory behavior found healing through Benita's organization. Their stories helped expose broader issues of exploitation in the tech industry, prompting significant cultural changes in major corporations. Across the room, Daniel Clark chatted with Tracy Moore. Their expertise in crypto asset law had made